clearly one of the signature Steph moments of his incredible, unbelievable career.
It was beautiful.
Getting to see all of those guys play together. But one of the things that you and I talked about, and this was as this tournament was going on, I said, Kevin, it certainly appears that we've talked about for years, like, oh, the world's catching up, and so many of the guys that are the best players in the NBA are from other countries now. And you see on the men's side and you see on the women's side and what took place, that it was an absolute necessity to have your best players there. That you would not have had your best players there, because not only did you have those great players had to be unbelievable in that setting. Like, that's an all-time. It took every bit of that Steph Curry performance in both of those games. You know, I had this number that in the first 4 games of the Olympics, Curry averaged 7 points, shot 41% from the field, 19% from 3, and had made 5 3-pointers. In the last 2 games, 30 points a game, 60% from the field, 65% from 3, and
Insane.
17 3-pointers.
Crazy.
And it took every bit of it to be able to stave off Serbia and then France. And you do wonder, this is not, it's not going to become less competitive as the years go on. But these are all-time great players, and it required them being all-time great. And I just think that speaks to how unbelievable the basketball is around the world, and these teams that are assembled that get, 4, 8, 12 years sometimes of playing international competition, that it's still very hard, even with the best of the best, to throw together 12 guys and expect them to go win this, because
that's why
you
it's
can't
a
do better.
good thing. That's why it's a good thing these games are competitive in the Final Four, in the semifinal and the final between USA and France, because you look at the way the basketball game has grown around the world. Obviously, there's far more talented players from international countries across the world that are now in the NBA. But also the talent pool has grown within those leagues overseas as well, where there's more talent. And I think the better the competition is, the better the sport of basketball is worldwide, the more interest there is in the game, the more interest there is in the NBA, the more interest there is in wanting to pick up a basketball and play when you otherwise may not have interest if there's 40-point blowouts in these games in the Olympics. So I think it's a good thing for the global game of basketball that these games were highly competitive, where France and Serbia were going toe-to-toe against the best of the best, and not just the best players in the NBA, but some of the best players ever of all time, with Steph, KD, and LeBron James still playing at a high level. So I think it's a very unique time in basketball history right now. When will we again have one team that has 3 of the 15 greatest players ever on it at one time? When will we have a tournament with 3 of the 15 greatest players involved at one time? It is really remarkable what we just witnessed this last month or so with the Olympics, with Stephen Curry, LeBron James, and Kevin Durant all playing together still at the level that they are. I think for basketball as a whole worldwide, there's probably tons of little kids who watch the Olympics and are now even bigger fans of the game than they were prior to it.
And I do think that it puts an onus on USA basketball and making sure that young guys are getting into the system, but also these young guys are getting in the system and they're getting reps playing against other teams, because this team had to throw it together because they assembled what they had assembled, but they had not played together as a basketball team, and their overwhelming talent got them over the hump. These other teams, in so many ways, you see the friendship, you see the chemistry, you see how both on and off the court it translates, and there is no greater example of that than, I don't know if you've seen that mashup of Nikola Jokic and the interview that is after they have won the NBA Finals, and he says, "It's good. It's good. Now we can all go back home." And then he walks off, and then they show him in that Serbian bus singing a song. They're all going buck wild, and somebody put up the meme, the difference between your friends and your coworkers, and he just went. Even after this, they showed him the next day he was back at the horse track. All he wants to do is go back to Serbia and be around Serbian people and listen to Serbian music and go to the horse track. And it's it really is his job, what he is doing. But you see the passion and you see the chemistry that these guys have because they are friends and they've been playing together since, in many cases, those kids are identified at 15, 16 years old?
Sometimes younger in certain cases.
Yeah.
Could be 12 or 13.
Well, and you saw, I remember used to see those Spanish teams with the Gasol brothers and Ricky Rubio and Juan Carlos Navarro and that whole crew. And they were, as tight could be, the level of passion they played with, the level of chemistry they played with. But most importantly, those teams had gotten a ton of reps together. The USA, I think one of the things this proved is you're not just going to be able to throw it together and play for a training camp, play some friendlies, and then be able to go win this thing going forward. And I do think it's essential to get the young upcoming talent in the mix, getting a lot of reps, playing in games with each other. Because it was a disappointment last year, clearly, in the Worlds. And then this one, man, to quote Anthony Edwards, make sure you got some old heads with you. Because those guys, the stage for the younger players, even for Edwards, looked a little bright in those last couple of games. And you needed LeBron James, the role player, and Steph Curry, this Super Saiyan, and Kevin Durant moments. And, geez Louise. Embiid having to take over 7 straight points in the Serbia game when they were down huge. You just needed every bit of these Hall of Fame level players to get this one. And I think it speaks to how great that's going to be in LA in 4 years. My God.